expert, Murray Izenwasser. Murray, thank you so much for meeting with me today. Why don't you give us a little bit of background on yourself and how you've gotten so heavily involved in SEO?
Sure. Thank you, Laura, for having me on your show here. So I've been doing this online stuff since about the mid-90s, 95, 96. I've been doing it for a long time. And let me tell you a little bit about Biztegra, which kind of explains what we are. We've been in existence about six and a half years as kind of a digital agency. Marketing on one side, technology on the other. The marketing is what I call the optimizations, the search, social, mobile optimizations, and all the marketing programs that go along with that. And on the technology side, we have a slew of developers down in Argentina, actually, where we build out the web, social, mobile sites or applications that we need to support those programs. I've been, like I said, I've been doing this for a long time. And when we started Biztegra, we wanted to bring, which is my background, of the large digital agency, the thinking and everything that goes into the way they approach that to a smaller audience, to smaller organizations. One of our first clients was actually in the publishing industry, and now we pretty much just focus exclusively on the publishing industry. And last year we launched a product called Publisher, which is a fully optimized for search, social, and mobile marketing and commerce platform for publishers that our clients are moving their websites over onto. And especially in the publishing industry, what we have found is that there's a lot of, let's call them, opportunities for websites to actually improve. You know, as an industry, I think most people would agree that it's fallen a little far behind, and there's probably a couple of reasons for that. One is a technology reason, is that most online or presences, really, if they're doing any kind of e-commerce, which is really the idea behind having your online presence, is creating some sort of direct-to-consumer program. And if you're the way that those e-commerce packages work is it's widget SKU price, and that doesn't work in publishing. Books are kind of a different animal. Books have editions, they have foreign languages, they have different formats, they have all kinds of different things that don't really fit into that, you know, widget SKU price format. And so you have that from a technology perspective, that e-commerce platforms don't really allow you to define books and authors and imprints the way the publishing industry works. With historically, publishers really didn't sell to the public. Right? Publishers didn't have this mentality of actually having to do real marketing. You know, they were banks. They basically, someone gave them a manuscript, and they, instead of giving money to the person, used money to produce the product and then put it on the market, where they sent it to distributors. Well, that whole model has fallen apart over the past number of years, where you have large online retailers that are, you know, come into play. We all know who I'm talking about. The smaller bookstores have, you know, either struggled or gone away. The distributors themselves have kind of changed their model a little bit. And so the publishers that are left, I believe, are really now focused on, well, how do we reach an audience? How do we drive demand? And I think the ones that we've seen from our clients that have been most successful are the ones that have the attitude of, we don't care who we sell it to, we don't care how we sell it, we don't care where we sell it, we don't care the language we sell it in, we don't care the country we sell it in, we just want to sell it. Right? They've been the ones who've been the most successful, and then the ones who've been the most successful have had that attitude, but have somehow inserted themselves into the purchase pathway of the consumer or the reader, right? And where they have enabled that purchase to occur, whether it happened on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or their own website. And I think, you know, I know that you guys deal a lot with authors. It's the same thing. Right? The author, it used to be, they used to have a manuscript and they used to throw it over to the publisher, and then they were done. Right? And maybe they got an advance, which would let them go and do a little bit of speaking tour or something, you know, where they do readings. But the model has changed. What you really need now is the publisher and the author working hand in hand, both having optimized presences, both really generating the right type of content. So to go back to your original question, we kind of came about, this optimization thing. We've been doing it all along. I've been doing it for going on 20 years now, working, in this web thing that we have. And now that the opportunity is that the people in publishing, it's different than other industries in that the people in publishing actually love the product, right? So people, not saying that people who create pipe valves don't love their product, but it's a different kind of love, right? People in publishing, they love books. And historically, they were literally, to make a pun, bound in cardboard, paper bound in cardboard. And now the people that I think are left still have that love of the books, but they realize that a book isn't paper bound in cardboard. It's a different, it can be, but it can also be other things. I've seen a shift over the past 6 or 8 months in people really understanding that creating a direct-to-consumer program is really important, both from the author community and also from the publishing community, right? So I don't even know if I answered your question, but
no, definitely. Yeah, that's a lot of background. That's actually so interesting. I do think that the publishing industry was slow to the start, but I think that we are shifting in that direction.
Right.
So a lot of our authors don't know anything about SEO, and it's kind of daunting to even consider it when thinking of a marketing strategy. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think this is a big mistake?
What, that they don't know anything about SEO?
Yeah, or just like using it in their marketing strategy.
Yeah, well, so again, there's very few authors, I think, that actually have any kind of marketing strategy or marketing. I wouldn't call it even a strategy. Have a marketing plan, right? Let's just call it that, right? And even publishers. I was talking with a publisher the other day that's looking to come onto our publisher platform, and one of the things we're talking about is, oh yeah, Instagram. We're going to be getting on Instagram in the next few weeks, and I didn't go down the route of saying, okay, so why? Why are you going to do that? Who's the are the people that are reading their books really users of Instagram? Are the audiences, have they found the 50 to 100 people on Instagram that are currently posting images and videos related to the topic? What hashtags are they going to use? What's the content? Still to this day, their plan is, oh, there's a new platform that seems to be popular. Let's get on it, right? And so I think that even from looking at a website, is you really have to take the step back and you have to understand what is it you're trying to accomplish. Whether publisher or author, what are you trying to accomplish with your website? What are you trying to do, right? How are you? And then once you have that set up, let's assume you can get it set up correctly. What then are you going to do to get the word out? What kind of content are you going to be generating or curating? What channels are you going to use to amplify the content? Are you going to be curating content? Are you going to be creating your own content? How are you going to be creating an audience? So going back to that first piece, which is the website, yeah, it's really important, to have an optimized website. And there's a lot of tools out there, if you're an author and you're creating a WordPress site, to use one of the plugins. I mean, we use on our client sites, we pretty much use the Yoast plugin that most people use. You actually have to go in and learn what it does and learn how to use it and fill it out and put in the information that it's asking for on every page. We just completed a study. I blog for Digital Book World, and we did a blog post where we asked publishers to let us review their sites, and we have 12 publishers that took part, of all sizes and categories and genres, and pretty much English speaking, but all over the world. And every single one of them had just absolutely tremendous, let's call them opportunities for improvement. And you really, have to focus on the website. The website's your house. And you've got to clean up your house before you start inviting people over, right? And that's what makes it so hard, especially for authors, who don't understand. But they really need to understand what it means to have an optimized site in today's world. And it's difficult, right? I mean, you just need to do it. And then in addition to that, what it means to actually have a real marketing program that they're going to use to get the word out about their books. And how are they going to partner with the publishers? And how are the publishers going to partner with the authors? And it goes much deeper than just having the website. right? Let's assume you have the website. Okay, now what? What are you going to do? So it's a much bigger discussion that needs to occur, and it has to be between the publisher and the author, because they both have to take part in today's world to be successful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Speaking of that blog post, or that digital publishing, you had a post on the 2 sides of SEO for book publishers. Yeah. And you had a line in there saying that people have told you that sometimes it's hard to compete with those big name publishers just because they're almost too perfect when it comes to SEO, and that you said that that's not really the case. So with what you just said, is there technically guidelines, I guess, for authors and self-publishers?
Yeah, I mean, the guidelines they're published, right? I mean, we know there's 10 or 15 or 20 major things that you have to do, and then they're published. There's a million blog posts, articles out there of make sure your website does these 10 or 15 things, and it's things like every page needs a title and it needs to be unique. Every page needs an H1 header and it needs to be unique and potentially the same as the title if we can. Not to have duplicate content on the site. Make sure your images, all the alt tags are filled out across the site. And so those are out there. I mean, again, there's not a lot from a technical perspective that you really need to do that if you're an author and you have a WordPress site that you can't do. You just need to take the time to go out and find those 10 things and then make sure that you do them. And that's the one side, what I call the mechanicals, right? Making sure your website is as optimized as you can. The other side then is, once you have that done, is what I call the content envelope, which surrounds the site. What content are you generating? Where's that content going? How are you linking it back to the site itself? And everyone, gets on a platform like Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or Instagram, and they create the account and they do a post or two, and then they say, now what? And that's an issue, right? You need to plan it out. You need to create an editorial calendar of what you're going to post when, that maybe you deviate from, but at least you have a plan, right? What platforms? And we tell people all the time, we'd rather they do fewer platforms than try and be everywhere where they don't do anything well, right? So focus on a couple of platforms where your audiences actually are, as opposed to trying to be on every platform and not doing anything well.
Yeah, that actually makes sense. So Google SEO makes more sense for nonfiction authors, right? I guess I'm saying, like, if I were writing a nonfiction book on parenting, what can I do to make the SEO better for readers who are looking for that?
Well, again, if you're an author and you have the one book, right? What you need to do is be adding content to that site on an ongoing and continuous basis about the topic, so that Google starts viewing your site and the pages on your site as authoritative. And it's the same for fiction authors. Right? Fiction authors, there is no difference between fiction and nonfiction from an SEO perspective, right? If you're a fiction author and you write about science fiction, or maybe writing in a subgenre of space safaris, with a love interest, you need to write about that, and you need to create other content that goes on the site, and you need to be finding other content that you can bring back to the site and generating communities. I mean, one of our clients has an annual writers conference where they bring in or 100 of their authors will fly in, and it's a little weekend, 3 days, and we did some research for them about authors who have a web presence and are active versus authors who don't necessarily have a web presence or are active, in the royalty checks. Right? And taking that extra time, and it is time consuming, taking that extra time, the difference between the active ones and the non-active ones, and we went back, books that had been released in the previous 6 months to authors that were fairly recent, it was like a 3,000% difference in the royalty check that those two groups got, right? That the active ones got. I mean, it pays off in the end. And what I've told that group when I presented to them is, your goal over the next 12 months is find 1,000 people to become your fans. That's your goal, right? Get 1,000 people that when you publish a book, they're going to buy it that day.
Mm-hmm.
And then the following year, find another 1,000. So now you have 2,000 people. And then the following year, find 2,000 more people. So now you have 4,000 people. It's going to be it's a 2, 3, 5-year program that you have to create, and it's a constant, ongoing, grinding. And I get how difficult it is. I mean, we don't do it. We do this for a living.
Yeah.
We all have day jobs, and writers, have day jobs, and then they have their writing job, and then they've got to find another 5 or 6 hours to do social media and create content outside of their writing. I get it. I get how hard it is. It's just one of those things that needs to be done. And that helps drive the SEO, right? It's not just the creating that optimized website. It's generating or curating or finding that content on the appropriate platforms that can drive people back to the site, where you can capture an email address, where you start a more of a dialogue with that group of people, that when you publish your book, they're actually going to buy it. And if you think about it, if you're doing this when you publish the book, it's too late. This needs to happen a year, 18 months before you actually hit your pub date. So that when you hit your pub date, you've actually built up as much of an audience as you can have built to that point, right? And for an author, if you go out and Google, tips and tricks or schedules for author marketing. I mean, there's all kinds of people out there that have put together, spreadsheets of all the things you need to do 18 months out, a year out, 6 months out, a month out before your pub date. I mean, all that information's out there. And, the way that I always look at it is the people that have been successful doing this are no smarter than you, right? They're no smarter than everyone else. I mean, some of them are, but everyone's kind of the same, They just spent more time. Because that's what it really is. It's finding that time, right? Like, writers, will get up at, 4 in the morning and write from 5 till 8 and then go to work and then come home, right? Do the same thing with creating your marketing and optimizing your site and doing your social media and generating your content, from 8 till 11 every night. I mean, you have to, it's the only way that you're going to do it. And that's if you want to actually get paid to, be an author.
Yeah.
Right? There's so many, the figure I've heard is there's, 300 authors in the United States that actually earn a living exclusively from writing. And it's a very small number. I mean, even if that's wrong by, a factor of 2, so there's 600, I mean, there's a very small number that actually earn a living from writing. The ones who do, though, one maybe got very lucky, and there are those that are out there that are at the top of the bestseller list. But the vast majority of those spend a lot of time generating content, spend a lot of time working with their audiences and building up followers and taking part in the conversations on the appropriate platforms. And, take a look at those authors that are doing it and emulate what they're doing.
That's really interesting. Especially because, I mean, when I Google search something, there's so much that comes up. And when you search how to have a better SEO, and there's just 9 million things that come up. So when you go around and you're talking to people about SEO and how to boost that, are there like specific tools that you tell them, or is it really just time and content and just babying?
Right. Yeah, so from an SEO perspective, again, if you have a WordPress site, put the Yoast plugin. That's what we use. And there's other ones. There's other plugins. We just happen to use that one. We think they do a really good job and keep it up to date. And then really learn how to use it. And aside from that, go find a list that someone else has created of 20 things to do to your site, right? Go and do those 20 things. There's a million of those out there. It doesn't matter. They all say the same thing. It's the same, 20, maybe one will be a little bit different. Go do those 20 things. Or do the 15 of those things that you can actually do, right? There's no one thing which is, if you do this, you will be at the top. So do as much as you can do. And then come up with a real plan for, the content. What content you're going to be creating, who are the audiences that you're going after, where do they congregate, how do they talk, what conversations are going on, and then insert yourself into the conversation, right? And then it's generating content. It's, generating content, sending it out there, and there's a lot of, research out there. It's like, 2 for 1 or 3 for 1. It's 3 for them, 1 for you. Put out 3 great pieces of content and then ask for something back, right? Saying, 3 great pieces of content, post, post, post. And then that 4th post is, hey, would you mind coming back and subscribing to my newsletter? People understand that. People can deal with that. If you're constantly out there with, hey, come back and subscribe to my newsletter, hey, come back and subscribe to my newsletter, people are going to tune you out. But if you're providing real content and then asking, that's fine, And again, you have to, the goal for everyone should be find 1,000 people to follow you who, when you publish, are going to buy your book, right? So that probably means you need 2,000 or 3,000 followers, right? But find 1,000 to start with, and then continue to build that, and don't stop. Just don't stop. It's an ongoing thing, and it's tough to do, and but you have to do it if you want to be a serious author that actually earns money, from writing. Then that's what you need to do. Yeah.
I mean, I think it really just does come down to time and effort and not annoying your audience with asking them to come back over and over. That's actually all the questions I have for you today. But I think this is going to be very helpful for our authors that are no idea where to go with their author blog, their website, and just SEO in general. I'll be sure to send this to you, though, when I've transcribed our interview.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you.
Bye.